when someone takes the time out of their day to come to our basement, to your basement, to our little studio.
It's our studio.
Our studio, not basement. Yeah. Undisclosed location. But when someone takes the time out of their day, and comes down and spends essentially probably like 2 hours, 3 hours with us, depending on how much we're talking and how much we're recording. Cause set up and tear down, we have discussions. When they're taking the time out of their day and to share intimately their life, to share their experience, and to be vulnerable with us. When I'm working on the podcast, I feel indebted to them. I feel that it is my duty to do the best I possibly can to present their story as best I can. So, like with Rocco's podcast, that was the first one we tried multicam, and my first time ever at editing in Premiere Pro. I stayed up till 6 a.m. to edit that podcast. I finished editing it. I exported it, went to sleep for 20 minutes, got up, went to church. It was a Saturday night, and then it didn't work. So I had to re-edit it. It took me less time because I figured it out. Finished it. And then the day before it was to be uploaded, I got a call from Rocco and saying, hey, I think there's some things I want to switch, which is awesome. Because I want to present, like I said, I want to present the best of them and what they want to see out there. So I had to stay up till 3 a.m. to edit it and get it out the same day. And that's my biggest drive is I want to share these people's stories because they're giving us their time and their energy. It is, I feel like it's my duty. It's I have to do it. And it's a beautiful thing. I absolutely love doing it. I mean, these stories, people's lives don't get told enough.
Yeah.
You know, like real life stories. We look at the news, it's all BS and whatever else is going on. But at the end of the day, there's humanity. Human lives are still happening. There's different things going on in people's lives that need to be shared. That's why I was really happy for us to come on the podcast, give a little update on what we're doing, everything going on. And it's really funny. I think it was your podcast. I made the joke about not knowing when my son was coming, and then he came like that, like next week. It's
that
like,
was funny.
oh, he's here now.
It wasn't even within a week because we had a podcast. We always record on Thursdays, and I think we recorded on a Thursday, and then he was born on the next Tuesday. Yeah. Was it a Tuesday?
It was a Tuesday. Yeah. I thought. Yeah. It was. I think I made the joke saying, "Oh, it comes a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, handful of days."
You know, they say God has a sense of humor, so everything is on His timing rather than your own. So He's always going to surprise you no matter what, just sometimes in ways that you would obviously never expect. So,
yeah.
Which is just crazy. I think we said it on other podcasts too, and I think it always deserves to be resaid because it's really the core idea of this podcast. The podcast is called Just Like You and Me. And anyone who listens to this podcast has heard this point being made a million times. But, truly at the end of the day, there's so many people that are out there that are just like you and me that have a story that deserves to be heard, right? And it's stories at the end of the day that change the world. It's the stories that, they are the foundational blocks of the world, right? There's the story of the Bible that is obviously like the biggest foundation of like all Western society. Every single ancient society had a story that was told that created that thing. Like the Greeks had their stories, the Persians had their stories, the Chinese had their stories, right? Stories are incredibly important because stories are what bring people together. Something that you hear and you say like, oh, that's where it comes from. Or, oh, like I feel that too. Like there's someone else out there that feels the same way about this topic that I do. Or this person converted for the same reason that I did. And, I'd been falling away, but they seem to be so on fire for their faith. And it's because they've done this with their life. Maybe that's what I need to do, right? Like stories drive things, right? They create things, and they are creations in and of themselves. And it's so important to be able to share creations with every single person because that's what reminds you of God, because God is the ultimate creator of everything. So if you're constantly putting yourself in, creational stories and stuff like that, it brings you back to God in a certain sort of sense, I guess.
It's human. I mean, God came down to this earth in human form for a reason.